Hi, welcome to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be sharing some romance book recs. So since it is the month of February and obviously with Valentine's Day, I wanted to share some of my favorite romance books. So for all the books that I chose to share today, I selected these books, one because I just love them, like I said, they're some of my favorites, but also I just really love like the actual romance aspect of it and like the relationship between the characters, and I just think that all of these are really great love stories, and so I just think they're perfect ones to obviously read around this time. So when I was kind of planning out what books I wanted to talk about in this video, the very first one that came to mind was Twisted Games by Ana Huang. So this book, I have definitely talked about it before. It's literally one of my favorite books, and that's why I'm talking about it again. And so it follows this woman named Bridget, and she is a princess, and it's a princess bodyguard trope. So her and her bodyguard don't really get along at first, but eventually they do start to fall for each other, but it is obviously kind of like forbidden because he is her bodyguard. But this book, they just go through so much together, and I feel like that's what made me really love it, is just like kind of seeing their relationship and like seeing the struggles they have since they really aren't supposed to be together. And I just really love the two of them together. There's 3 books so far in this series, and this one's my favorite. I just really love these characters, and it was just very obvious like how much they loved each other in this book. So yeah, I won't go too much into it because I feel like I've talked about this book so many times. I've done a review on it and everything, but it's a really great book and I really love the love story in it. The next book, I have literally talked about it so many times, but I'm going to talk about it again because I love it so much, and that's The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. So this book, it's fake dating. The main character needs a date for her sister's wedding. She ends up taking her coworkers, enemies to lovers, and I just love it. One of my favorite books. I've said that so many times, but I'm literally obsessed with this book, and I'm obsessed with Aaron, who is the love interest. I have talked about him before, but he's literally one of my favorite like fictional characters ever. He's so sweet. He just does so much for the main character, and he just loves her so much, and it's just really sweet to read, and I just love this book. It's one of the cutest books I've ever read. The next book that I'm going to talk about is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. So this book, again, is a really just amazing love story. The two main characters both do have kind of a lot of trauma, so definitely like be aware of that and check trigger warnings if you need to, but they both have had some really like dark and difficult pasts. And so the main character, her name is Bree, she moves to this small town, and that's where Archer lives, and she befriends him, and they eventually just start to spend more time together and eventually fall for each other. And like I said, it's just a really beautiful love story. This book, honestly, I feel like doesn't really have much of a plot for most of it, but you're just kind of seeing the relationship between Bree and Archer for most of it, and you just kind of see how it develops, and I just think it developed like so beautifully between the two of them. And again, this is just one of my top books if you're looking for like a sweet relationship that just develops like really naturally. And again, I just think the story is really beautiful. They both overcome a lot, and they both really like help each other, but on top of that, they work on things by themselves too, and it's just a really great book. I highly recommend it. The next book is one of my more recent favorites, and that's From Look Up With Love by Mariana Zapata. So this book is enemies to friends to lovers, and again, it's one of those stories that I feel like the relationship progresses just really naturally, and I really love seeing that in books. And I really like when they develop like a friendship in the books before they eventually fall for each other. That's part of why friends to lovers is one of my favorite tropes, because I just feel like it just seems a lot more natural when they go to like actually being friends with each other and like knowing each other really well and then falling for each other. But yeah, this book, I love it a lot. It's so sweet. The two main characters get to a point where they're literally like best friends. They're just so in tune to each other, and they just know everything about each other. They know each other so well, and I really loved seeing that. And I loved when they finally do eventually get together, just the way that it happens, and like just that whole scene when they eventually confess their love for each other is one of like my favorite things I've ever read in a book. So the two main characters are Ivan and Jasmine, and there's this one quote that I really love where Ivan tells Jasmine something along the lines of that he's okay with her having you know, a bunch of people be her favorite person in the world, but she's always going to be his favorite. And that quote just really got me. I loved it so much. That whole scene when he does finally say that to her is like the sweetest thing ever, and I just love it. And like I said, if you're looking for a book with kind of that natural progression in the relationship, and one that's a very slow burn, this book is really slow, but if you're prepared for that or want something like that, then definitely read this one. The next book that I'm going to talk about is the Addicted series by Krista and Becca Ritchie, more specifically the third one in the Addicted series, which is Addicted for Now. So this book follows Lily and Lo Like I said, it is the third one in the series, so you do have to read the first two to like get this one, but I definitely recommend this entire series. And the reason why I'm talking about the third one specifically is because this is the book where I actually started to really love this series. The first book, I enjoyed reading it. It was a good book, and then the second one was just a little too slow for me, so I just wasn't sure how I felt after I finished that one. But when I got to this one, I just literally fell in love with this series, and I just really loved Lily and Lo when I finished this book. And so they're the main couple in this book, but there also is a spin-off series where they appear, and I was really indifferent towards them when I was reading the first two books, and then like I said, when I read this one, that's when I realized like how much I love them together. And so I'm not done with the series yet. There's still two more in the Addicted series that I have to read, so I feel like once I read those, like my love for them is gonna grow even more. But like I said, this one is the one that really just like solidified like how much I loved them. And so if you don't know about this series, basically Lo is an alcoholic and Lily is a sex addict. And in the beginning, they're actually fake dating to hide their addictions, and they kind of both enable each other. But then they do get to a point, obviously, where they decide that they can't be doing that anymore. And so in this book, I'm not going to give anything away, but basically they're kind of working through their addictions, and they work through a lot in this book, and they just go through so much. And so like I said, this one is the one that just really made me love them, because you get to see a lot of kind of their struggles and how they get through it together. But yeah, once you finish this book, you do start reading the spin-off series. And I remember when I was done with this one, I had been looking forward to the spin-off series for so long, and then once I finished this one, I like didn't want to move on to it because I just wanted to read more about Lily and Lo. But yeah, again, it's another book that just has a really great love story between the two main characters. The last book that I'm going to be talking about is part of the Calloway Sister series, which is the spin-off to the Addicted series, and that book is Hot House Flower by Kristen Becker Ritchie. This is the second book in the Calloway Sister series, and then the fifth book in total when you read them all together. So basically this book follows Daisy and Reich. Daisy is Lily's sister, and there is an age gap between them. It's about 7 years. Daisy is 18, Reich is 25, and I honestly didn't like that at first. I didn't know how I was going to feel about this book, and then it became my favorite of the whole series, and Daisy and Reich became my favorite couple. But yeah, this is another one where you again just see the couple go through so much together, and you see like how much they love each other and help each other kind of with the struggles that they're facing. And so that's a big part of why I fell in love with this book so much, because Daisy, she's kind of like very alone in the world and in her life, and Reich is kind of the only one who really sees what she's going through and kind of knows how she feels. And so they are very close to each other. They start off as friends, but eventually they just have really strong feelings for each other, and they act on those feelings. And when they're together, they're just a really great couple. I just really love them. You see like how much they really love each other, and you also just see how much they help each other, and it's just a really beautiful thing to read. So those are all the books that I wanted to talk about. Like I said, they're just some of my absolute favorite books, some of my favorite love stories that I've ever read. And they're just books where I really just loved the couple and kind of like their story together. But yeah, if you liked this and you're new to my channel, I would love it if you would subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.